You may think it was a very little thing, and in these days it seems to me like a trifle, but it was a most important incident in my life. I could scarcely credit that I, the poor boy, had earned $1 in less than a day, that by honest work, I had earned $1. I was a more hopeful and thoughtful boy from that time. I have always been an old line Henry Clay Whig. Books serve to show a man that those original thoughts of his aren't very new at all. He who molds the public sentiment, makes statutes and decisions possible or impossible to make. My father removed from Kentucky to Indiana in my 8th year. It was a wild region, with many bears and other wild animals still in the woods. There I grew up. Of course, when I came of age, I did not know much. Still, somehow, I could read, write, and cipher, but that was all. For my part, I desire to see the time when education, and by its means, morality, sobriety, enterprise and industry, shall become much more general than at present, and should be gratified to have it in my power to contribute something to the advancement of any measure which might have a tendency to accelerate the happy period. By what principle of original right is it that 1/50th or 1/90th of a great nation, by calling themselves a state, have the right to break up and ruin that nation as a matter of original principle? In my view of the present aspect of affairs, there is no need of bloodshed and war. There is no necessity for it. I am not in favor of such a course, and I may say in advance, there will be no bloodshed unless it be forced upon the government. The government will not use force unless force is used against it. It is a quality of revolutions not to go by old lines or old laws, but to break up both and make new ones. Republicans are for both the man and the dollar, but in case of conflict the man before the dollar. When Southern people tell us they are no more responsible for the origin of slavery than we are, I acknowledge the fact. When it is said that the institution exists, and that it is very difficult to get rid of it in any satisfactory way, I can understand and appreciate the saying. Whatever woman may cast her lot with mine, should any ever do so, it is my intention to do all in my power to make her happy and contented, and there is nothing I can imagine that would make me more unhappy than to fail in the effort. Don't swap horses in crossing a stream. If ever I feel the soul within me elevate and expand to those dimensions not wholly unworthy of its almighty architect, it is when I contemplate the cause of my country, deserted by all the world beside, and I standing up boldly and lone and hurling defiance at her victorious oppressors. If I were to try to read, much less answer, all the attacks made on me, this shop might as well be closed for any other business. He who would be no slave must consent to have no slave. Those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves and, under a just God, cannot long retain it. I perhaps ought to say that individually I never was much interested in the Texas question. I never could see much good to come of annexation, and as much as they were already a free Republican people on our own model. If the great American people will only keep their temper, on both sides of the line, the troubles will come to an end, and the question which now distracts the country will be settled just as surely as all other difficulties of like character which have originated in this government have been adjusted. A private soldier has as much right to justice as a major general. The people themselves, and not their servants, can safely reverse their own deliberate decisions.